very soon they're gonna be arrived, and you will have more people. But in the meantime, I would like to take an honor to recognize some of our members, our government officials, religious leaders, and community leaders as we go along, and please welcome. Today we have first one. I would like to have an honor to recognize the Ambassador Julie Turner, the acting Deputy Assistant to Secretary of State in the Bureaus of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor at the U.S. Department of State. Julie, Julie. Yes. Dr. Eric Patterson is the President of and the CEO of the Victim of Communism Memorial Foundation, a seasoned foreign policy expert. President previously led the Religious Freedom Institute and served our nation as a White House Fellow at the U.S. Department of State. The next one I would like to introduce is the Commissioner. Mr. Nathan Moore, a staff for Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, representing Pennsylvania 1st District. I thought he was here. Next one, I would like to have an honor to introduce the Venerable Thích Huyền Việt, a highly respected Buddhist monk and steadfast advocate for human rights. Thank you, Thầy, for being with us every step of the way. Mr. Lê Đình Yên Phú, the President of Federations of Vietnamese American Community of the USA. Ms. Vicky Ong, aka bà La Cẩm Tú, the Chairman of the Board of Directors of USA Vietnam American Community of Pennsylvania. Dr. Bình Trung, the President Antelope Valley Vietnamese Association of California. Dr. Trần Quốc Hưng, a representative of Alliance for Vietnam Democracy. Last but not least, Mr. Hải Cao, the member of State Committee 9, Congressional District, Georgia Republican Party. Next, we'll have an honor to also introduce Ms. Katrina Lippman, the External Relations and Victim of Communism. And once again, thank you to both of you for being with us. I have an honor to see you at least 2 or 3 times already. Really appreciate it. And we will be, please hang on tight, and we'll be starting our program very soon. So. Oh, I also recognize Mr. Đinh Hồng Cường, the representative of the Vietnamese community. As you looking at the door, we have an honor to also welcome Father Andrew Nguyễn Hữu Lễ, is a Vietnamese Catholic priest, refugee, and author of memoir I Must Leave, Orange in 1970. From the youth. Thank you, Ken. Please hang on tight, and we will, as we start the program very soon.
So Brendan had to talk, so I'll continue to introduce people that I see here. That Mr. Nguyễn Hiếu Thuận is the president of the Vietnamese community of Oklahoma. And I dubbed Dr. Nguyễn Mậu Trinh. He's one of the longest member of the Human Rights May 11 for a long time that I know of. I recognize you, Cao Nguyen, is a represent the senior group in Washington. Tony Train, Representative Congressman Derek Train from California. Media recognize the VATV, anh Vân và anh Nhân. Recognize you Phúc for the Hoa Từ Đống TV and anh Yuan for the VTV. Thank you. We have another bus coming, so please give us a moment to get everybody through the door. Yeah. Sorry, cô bé Bảy, bà Nguyễn, Mrs. Nguyễn Thị bé Bảy, she represents of the women Vietnam veterans. Please, she represents the Vietnamese communities in Washington D.C. and Maryland and Virginia also. So I'm still recognize chú Nguyễn Minh Toàn, Mr. Nguyễn Minh Toàn. He's representative of the Vietnam vets of the Air Force of Vietnam Air Force.
Good morning once again. I'm sorry, I still have my time messed up. We are going to give a little program brief for today, and also some safety precautions facilitated around this area for everyone to get familiar with. And then we start the program. First of all, please have your phone on silent and give the utmost respect to our speaker and guests. Second of all, there will be men and women restroom facility on the back side of this. When you go out toward the back, there will be a restroom facility back there, and also to my left here directly. If any emergency situations going on, we have to get out of this building, follow the exit side, and the back, the middle, and also to the front of this building, headed toward my right side of this building. The flow of the program today will start with a national anthem, the United States, the Republic of Vietnam, and the moment of silence. Then we'll start the program with an open speech and our special guest. After the primary program is complete, we will have a panel session today, 2 panel sessions, which will be collaborate and coordinate by our team members and also religious leaders and representatives from the government to collaborate and discuss the important topic. Other than that, please rise for national anthem. The U.S. national anthem. Republic of Vietnam national anthem.
Đồng dân ơi, quốc gia đến ngày giải phóng, đồng lòng cùng đi hy sinh những vì thân sống, vì tương lai quốc dân cùng sống phá cách, làm sao cho núi sông từ nay luôn vững bền, cho thầy thời trên quốc giáo, thủ đương lấy máu đào đem máu, ngài giống nước tiên phải thần danh huy, người không dám luôn khốn hèn tâm trí, cùng tranh quyết chiến đấu làm cho ấm nơi hoàng thiên người Việt Nam cho đến muôn đời. Công dân ơi, mau lên bên dưới cờ công dân ơi, mau làm cho khói mờ thoát cơn và vẽ vang nổi sông xứng danh in năm
The following is a moment of silence.
A movement of silence to reflect on our accomplishment to our ancestors who overcame all the challenge to build a country, defend the borders, resist foreign invader, and pass into the future generation. A movement of silence to honor the courage soul, the warrior who give their lives to safeguard our country, maintain the value of freedom, democracy, humanism, and human rights for all. A movement of silence to honor the list of many captives who died in the countless jails, torture camps, the sacred forest of fish and water, the exile between ideological persecution of conscience and secular hatreds. The life of the boat people who risked across the ocean and the border to escape unjust treatment and despair, where spirits and faith crushed by the consequences of communist tyranny. A movement of silence to honor all the unjust victims and prisoners of conscience and have suffered or still suffer injustice and mistreatment in prison in the name of promoting human rights and principle. The movement of silence begins. The movement of silence ended. Please be seated.
As we just have seen, please welcome Ambassador Julie Turner as she arrived just a few minutes ago. So welcome. Please stand up and thank you. Allow me to introduce Miss Destiny's next to me here as a co-host for this event today. Ms. Destiny is a Vietnamese American community leader serving as the chairwoman on May 11th. Vietnam Human Rights Days Committee, president of Vietnamese American Community of Richmond, and vice president of the Federations of Vietnamese American Communities of the USA. She's also the founder of the Republic of Vietnam Next Generations, the youth-focused initiative dedicated to promoting freedom and democracy, leadership development, and human rights within the Vietnamese community. Please welcome Ms. Destiny Nguyen.
Good morning. Honorable members and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Organizing Committee, it is my honor to welcome you as we commemorate the 32nd anniversary of the Vietnam Human Rights Day. Today, we gather not only reflect on the progress that make advances human rights for the Vietnam people, but also recognize the significant challenge remain fundamental freedoms, include freedom of religion, expression, freedom of speech, continue to be restricted for many in Vietnam. Our presence here reaffirms the shared commitment to uphold to defend these essential rights. Before we begin, I would like to express sincere gratitude to those who have made the event possible. We extend our appreciation to Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania and Congressman Derek Tran of California for their leadership and support as a co-sponsor. We also honored by support of Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary Ambassador Julie Turner and many members of Congress who continue to champion human rights. We gratefully acknowledge the contribution of U.S. Commission on International Religion of Freedom, the Victim of Communist Memorial Foundation, and other partner organizers who work continue to promote accountable and justice. We especially honor present of our delegates from United States and Tibet who participate, reflect, and share expression in freedom and dignity. We honor to all the Vietnamese community across the U.S. stand together for Vietnam human rights today. To all participants, whether you have traveled far away or joined locally, thank you for your commitment. I would also like to recognize our organization team for their dedicated efforts to make today's event possible. As we begin, let us move forward with renewed resolve to our shared pursuit of freedom, justice, and human rights for all. Next, I would like to, my honor to introduce Mr. Hung Pham, who currently serves as a Vietnamese American community leader and human rights advocate serving board director of the Vietnam Human Rights May 11th.
Ambassador Julie Turner currently serves as Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, and U.S. Department of State. Ambassador Turner previously served as U.S. Special Envoy for North Korean human rights issues from October 2023 to January 2025. Ambassador Turner is globally recognized as an expert in the area of human rights and democracy and has worked for over the past 20 years to strengthen democratic institutions and promote human rights throughout the East Asia and Pacific region. She served throughout the East Asia and served as the Office Director in DRL, Office of East Asia and the Pacific, and previously was the Director for Southeast Asia at the National Security Council. Early in her time at the State Department, she served as the Special Assistant to the first U.S. Special Envoy for North Korean human rights and worked as a program analyst in the Bureau of Information Resource Management Office of E-Diplomacy. As a career civil service employee and former Presidential Management Fellow, Ambassador Turner has dedicated her career to advance human rights around the world. Ambassador Turner is graduated from Pepperdine University and University of Maryland locally. Please join me to give a warm and enthusiastic welcome to Ambassador Chủ đề chơi nữa. Let's show her our vision with a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today at the 32nd commemoration of Vietnam Human Rights Day. I would like to take a moment to thank the committee for gathering us here for the past 3 decades. I would also like to acknowledge our distinguished moderator and speakers for sharing their powerful testimony with us today, and Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick and Derek Tran for co-sponsoring this year's commemoration. Diaspora, it's an honor to stand before you today. You have shown extraordinary courage in your journey to freedom, and you continue to be powerful voices for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Many in this room do so in the face of personal risk for their work. This includes DRL's longtime friend, Dr. Nguyen Dinh Thanh, a U.S. citizen who was convicted in absentia by Vietnamese authorities on charges of terrorism. Your resilience and your commitment to freedom and human dignity are inspiring. You remind us why America must stand up for those who yearn to be free. Vietnam has made significant strides in improving the lives of its citizens, including reducing poverty, expanding access to education, and improving healthcare. These achievements are all commendable. Secretary Rubio has emphasized the importance of deepening cooperation with Vietnam in key areas such as critical minerals and energy security, as well as expressing gratitude for Vietnam's support as a founding member of the Board of Peace. The United States also values its comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam. But a strong relationship must be built on honesty, and we must be honest about the serious human rights challenges that persist in Vietnam. True partnership requires candor, and the United States will always speak clearly about our concerns when fundamental freedoms are at stake. Under President Trump's leadership and Secretary Rubio's direction, the United States has reaffirmed its commitment to defending fundamental freedoms worldwide. As Secretary Rubio emphasized in his December 2025 remarks to the press, foreign policy needs to be rooted in the national interest of the United States, and protecting human rights is central to that mission. Vietnam's human rights record is deeply concerning, and we would like to see the government make improvements in 3 critical areas: freedom of expression, freedom of religion or belief, and ceasing its transnational repression activities. First, we're deeply concerned that the Vietnamese government continues to severely restrict freedom of expression, and the government is poised to make a restrictive environment even worse. The government maintains tight control over digital spaces, making it increasingly difficult for individuals and organizations to report about human rights conditions online. The government has leveraged cybersecurity laws to expand government authority to censor online content and force internet service providers to monitor or remove content deemed threatening to national security. The government has also orchestrated attacks against websites perceived as critical to the government, conducted surveillance on dissident bloggers, and restricted access to social media platforms. Journalists, religious actors, and even ordinary citizens who dare to report the truth face harassment, detention, and imprisonment under vague national security provisions. I'm particularly concerned about the health and welfare of independent journalist Lê Huy Minh Duan, whose sister is a U.S. citizen. We urge the government of Vietnam to grant him humanitarian release so that he can seek the medical care that he needs. Draft legislation is expected to encourage even greater self-censorship. Earlier this year, the Ministry of Public Security released draft legislation that would further tighten the government's control of online speech, imposing fines up to 10 times higher than previous amounts, and introducing criminal penalties for AI-generated content. We are also particularly concerned by the draft fake news law, which would require internet service and social media providers to proactively filter content and potentially share user data without due process. These restrictive policies don't just harm Vietnamese citizens, they also constrain American companies and American voices. Stringent cybersecurity laws and content regulations force US technology companies to comply with censorship demands or face being blocked from the Vietnamese market. These policies stifle innovation, they limit the free flow of information, and undermine internet freedoms that are essential for success in the 21st century. The government has also announced plans to transfer key digital economy and cyberspace functions to the Ministry of Public Security, further consolidating control. This administration believes deeply in the power of free speech. We have taken action to protect Americans' freedom of expression both at home and abroad, and we will continue to advocate for this fundamental freedom for all persons everywhere, including in Vietnam. We urge the Vietnamese government to release all those who have been unjustly detained for exercising free speech, to meet its international obligations, including to protect freedom of expression, and to reduce undue restrictions on the press and online platforms. Second, freedom of religion or belief is also a significant concern for the United States in Vietnam. Vietnam has been on the US Special Watch List for severe religious freedom violations since 2022. The government of Vietnam maintains significant control over religious practices, and Vietnam's laws include vague provisions to restrict the exercise of religious freedom in the name of national security and social unity. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom's 2026 annual report highlighted several instances of Vietnamese authorities threatening, harassing, and detaining religious freedom advocates. Members of religious communities, including Christians, Buddhists, and others who practice their faith outside state-controlled institutions, face constant surveillance and harassment from local and state authorities. In some cases, houses of worship are shuttered. Religious leaders are imprisoned. Believers are often told to renounce their faith or face arrest, forcing them to choose between their faith or their freedom. The United States reaffirms its commitment to religious freedom as an unalienable right. We believe that faith is vital to human flourishing and a free society, and we will continue to stand with those who face persecution for their beliefs. We call on Vietnam to take steps to address our human rights concerns and to ensure all individuals can practice their religion or belief without fear or reprisal. Third, and finally, the government's willingness to reach out beyond its borders to silence critics and intimidate diaspora communities is particularly concerning. This use of repression beyond its own borders, often referred to as transnational repression, or TNR, violates the sovereignty of other states and is unacceptable. The Vietnamese authorities are escalating their use of TNR and are using quick trials in absentia and the issuance of Interpol red notices to impede travel of U.S. citizens and other human rights and religious freedom advocates abroad. Tactics include revoking passports, surveillance, intimidation, kidnapping, and threats to family members remaining in Vietnam. There are also reports about cases of activists being sent home or refouled from other countries at the behest of the Vietnamese authorities and subsequently imprisoned in Vietnam. I know many of you here have shared harrowing experiences and have borne witness to the far-reaching negative consequences of TNR in your own lives and those of your colleagues and family members. Let me be clear, the United States will not tolerate efforts by foreign governments to intimidate, harass, or threaten people on American soil. We will protect the rights of U.S. citizens and our residents to speak freely, to advocate for change, and to live without fear of retaliation from authoritarian regimes. Finally, as we commemorate Vietnam Human Rights Day, we honor those who have suffered for their beliefs, those who remain imprisoned for speaking truth, and those who continue to work for freedom globally. We stand with you. Thank you for your courage, resilience, and your unwavering commitment to human rights. Together, we will continue this vital work until every person in Vietnam can live in freedom and dignity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. It seems like it's a long journey, but with people like you and many others here, we believe we will be able to break the wall and bring freedoms and democracies to Vietnam. Allow me to short translate a little bit on what Ms. Turner said in Vietnamese. Okay. Turner là một trong những tiếng nói quan trọng và ảnh hưởng tới vấn đề đòi quyền tự do và nhân quyền cho Việt Nam chúng ta, và đã từng tham gia các hoạt động và có mặt trong các những lần mình tổ chức ngày nhân quyền, và bà đã nói và cho chúng ta biết rằng là người Mỹ họ biết những cái tình trạng bị đàn áp nhân quyền tôn giáo ở tại Việt Nam, và sẽ luôn luôn là tiếng nói để cùng chúng ta giành lại quyền tự do và nhân quyền cho người Việt ở Việt Nam tại Việt Nam của chúng ta. The next, I would have the honor to invite Mr. Stephen Schneck, the Commissioner of U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. Come on stage, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I want to talk about one very important right among all of the rights at issue today, and that is the right to freedom of religion or belief. As you heard, my name is Steve Schneck. I'm a commissioner with the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, or USIRF as it's called. I'm honored to be here with you today as we continue to mark Vietnam Human Rights Day. In fact, the situation of human rights, as we've just heard from Ambassador Turner, merits more than one day of commemoration. It demands continuous attention, particularly regarding the ongoing crackdown of freedom of religion or belief, which is a fundamental freedom in international law guaranteed to the people of Vietnam. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom is a government agency that monitors religious freedom around the world. We make policy recommendations to the United States President, to the Secretary of State, and to Congress about what to do about religious freedom around the world. Each year we publish an annual report assessing freedom of religion conditions in countries we determine to be among the worst violators, including our recommendations as to country designations. Since 2002, the Commission has recommended that Vietnam be designated a country of particular concern, including in our most recent annual report. And I want to be clear, this designation is the designation that we give to the very worst violators of religious freedom around the world. In our report, we noted that the 2018 law on belief and religion and its implementing decrees remain the principal tool for Vietnamese authorities to manage religious affairs. Authorities have long used ill-defined national security provisions to target and to prosecute Vietnamese civilians. Our report notes that Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister has outlined ethnic and religious affairs as one of the 6 strategic priorities, and we are very closely monitoring how the 2026 revisions to the law on belief and religion may further impact religious freedom in Vietnam. In our latest country update on Vietnam, which was released last December, We noted that Vietnam has made notable strides to embrace recognized religious groups, but generally at the expense of independent religious communities whose members continue to face repression. Vietnamese authorities threaten, harass, physically attack, detain, imprison individuals from these communities because of their religious practices. Religious groups that the Vietnam government persecutes include such groups as the Cao Dai followers, Hoa Ho Buddhists, Khmer Krom Buddhists, Hmong and Montagnard Christians. Regardless of their religious affiliations, though, any person in Vietnam who seeks to practice their religion outside of state-sponsored religious organization is at risk of being targeted by the government. These individuals often face intrusive monitoring and pressure from government authorities to join state-sponsored, state-sanctioned religious groups. Let me say this plainly. According to international law, individuals must be free to practice their religion or belief without any mandatory approval from their government. There is a real and tragic human cost for Vietnam's systematic, ongoing, and egregious violations against unregistered religious groups and individuals. My commission's Frank R. Wolf Freedom of Religion or Belief Victims List, for example, documents more than 90 individuals whom Vietnamese authorities have detained or imprisoned simply for trying to practice their religion or belief or to advocate for religious freedom. One such victim is E. Quin Bu Dap, whom Thai authorities extradited back to Vietnam, where a court subsequently convicted him and sentenced and imprisoned him on spurious charges. Yusuf is well aware of Vietnam's engagement in transnational repression as well, including against Du Thang Nga monk Thich Minh Thuy, who is currently in Nepal, and against US-based human rights organization BPSOS. And let me say here, on a personal note, that Dr. Tong is someone whom I admire very much personally and revere his work in this regard. And Thailand-based Montagnard's group Stand for Justice. The Vietnamese government has labeled both of these organizations as terrorist groups and in contravention of international standards. It is also prosecuted and sentenced in absentia Dr. Tong, whom I just mentioned. Yusuf continues to watch these cases and others like it with keen concern. And we will continue to monitor unflinchingly report on the Vietnamese government's continuing violations of religious freedom. It is our hope, of course, to see positive change in the country, which appeared for a time to have made some progress in regards to religious freedom. But it has since fallen back into patterns of repression that are documented by our reports and many others. To that end, USCIRF has recommended to the United States government to call on its authorities to amend or repeal articles of its criminal code by which it continues to target adherents of independent religious groups. We also recommend that the United States government engage with Vietnam's Ministry of Ethnic and Religious Affairs to ensure that amendments to the law on belief in religion conform to international standards. And we've called on the U.S. Congress to seize every opportunity to raise Vietnam's ongoing freedom of religion or belief concerns and to introduce legislative efforts to improve religious freedom in Vietnam, such as through the Vietnam Human Rights Act, H.R. 3122, referred to the House Foreign Affairs Committee and to the House Judiciary Committee in April of last year. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, I want to thank you for the invitation to speak here on behalf of the Commission on Human Rights Day, May 11th. And thank you again for inviting the Commission to join your commemoration. Your work is vital for the advancement of religious freedom and broader human rights in Vietnam. I applaud your work and thank you for your bravery. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Stephen. As Commissioner Stephen mentioned, Dr. Nguyễn Thắng, we would like to have an honor to also welcome Dr. Nguyễn Thắng, and please rise so everybody can see and give him a big hand of applause. Dr. Nguyễn Thắng is the Vietnamese American human rights advocate and president of Boat People SOS, aka BPSOS, a former Vietnamese boat refugee. He came to the U.S. in 1979, earned a PhD in mechanical engineering, and later devoted his career to helping refugees and defending religious freedom and human rights in Southeast Asia. He has led efforts against human trafficking and support vulnerable Vietnamese community worldwide. Please once again give him a big hand of applause. I think now we turn procedure back to Destiny.
Next, I'm proud to introduce Jack Vo. Jack is the third generation of the founder, Dr. Nguyễn Quốc Quân. Jack is the Dr. Nguyễn Quốc Quân grandson, and Jack graduated from the Virginia University of Virginia. And Jack will be here to read the history of May 11th. Welcome, Jack.
Honorable members of Congress, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On May 11, 1990, Dr. Nguyen Duc Quay, on behalf of the nonviolent movements for human rights in Vietnam, courageously released a manifesto calling on the Vietnamese government to respect fundamental human rights, adopt a multi-party political system, and restore the people's right to choose their leaders through free and fair elections. For this peaceful and principled act, Dr. Quay was arrested and sentenced to 20 years in prison in 1991. In recognition of his courage and the broader call for justice, May 11th was officially designated as Vietnam Human Rights Day in the Commonwealth of Virginia in 1994. This effort was led by Assemblyman Alan Mayer and supported by 8 co-sponsors in the Virginia General Assembly. In his statement, Assemblyman Mayer confirmed that Dr. Quay's manifesto echoed the values found in the U.S. Declaration of Independence and our national commitment to liberty and justice. Shortly after, thanks to the determined advocacy of the Vietnamese American community, the movement gained national momentum. Congresswoman Leslie Byron and Senator Charles Robb introduced resolutions H.R. 33 and S.R. 168 that were later merged into the joint resolution S.J. 168. On May 20th, 1994, President Bill Clinton signed this resolution into law as Public Law 103258, officially designating May 11th as Vietnam Human Rights Day in the United States. Since that day, Vietnam Human Rights Day has served as a powerful reminder, both within Vietnam and globally, of the enduring struggle for freedom of thought, political participation, religious liberty, and human dignity. It stands as a symbol of solidarity with those who continue to face oppression or simply seeking the most basic human rights. Each year, we gather not only to commemorate this date, but to renew our shared commitment to supporting the Vietnamese people's aspirations for a free and democratic future. The journey continues, and our voices, united in purpose, remain essential in that ongoing struggle. Thank you.
The following is our award ceremony, and and our community would like to invite the following individuals and leaders to come on to the stage so we can honor the president. First of all, I would like to invite Mr. Nathan Moore, the staff for Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, representing Pennsylvania, the 1st District. Yes, it is. Yes. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Tony Tran, a representative for Congressman Derek Tran, the representing the California 45 District. Mr. Hưng, please. Thank you. Thank you. The following, we would like to invite a representative of the two following organizations. First, the Federations of Vietnamese American Communities of the USA. Dr. Doug is also a member. With Yên Phú and all the members of Federation of Vietnamese American Community of the USA. All members have been called. Thank you. Thank you. The following, I would like to invite all members of Rallying for Democracy is organization. Thank you, Lady Chair. The following program will be the panel. Let us have 5-minute break, and we will come back and we will set up the first panel. And please resume at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Oh, chú. Good, yeah. Dạ, con đi làm. Dạ không, con làm ở Ủy ban Indonesia. Chuyện không phải đi. Dạ, dạ đúng rồi con. Good to see you too. Yeah.
Thôi, vậy có việc làm đây.
Can I have your attention, please? We are resuming the program in 1 minute. Please be seated.
Dạ chào ba. Dạ con làm ở đây. Dạ. Để con chào các con.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated as we move forward with the next section, panel, section number 1. And please keep your noise level down. The first session of panel 1 will be hosted and moderated by Ms. Linh Nguyen and Mr. Vika. The panelists will be represented by Dr. Eric Patterson, the victim of communism, the FPAC USA, Mr. Lê Đình Yêu Phú, the BPSOS, Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng, and BAC of OK, Mr. Thuận Nguyễn. Please come on the table as the representative of the panelists.
Morning. Thank you, Brandon. Chúng con tôn kính đại lễ. Đức Phó Tăng Thống, chúng con tôn kính đại lễ. Linh mục Nguyễn Hữu Lễ. Kính chào quý vị dân biểu, quý quan khách, quý đồng hương. Tiếp theo chương trình là buổi hội thảo chủ đề đàn áp xuyên quốc gia và đáp ứng quốc tế. Kính thưa quý vị, chúng tôi hôm nay cũng có anh Hoàng Huy Kha. Kính chào anh Kha.
Kính chào quý vị.
Good morning, members of Congress, esteemed staff, distinguished guests, colleagues, and compatriots. Welcome to the Capitol Hill for this timely panel on transnational repression and international response. Today we will discuss the growing threat
to democracy, U.S. sovereignty, more and more authoritarian governments are trying to silence critics, and not only in our own countries, but also abroad, including here in the United States. One of the clearest examples today is Vietnam. We are seeing a coordinated four-pronged strategy by Hanoi to weaken and silence political opposition around the world. First, on the international level, we are using global institutions to expand their power. The new UN Cybercrime Treaty, known as the Hanoi Convention, gives authoritarian governments a legal framework to request digital surveillance and data sharing across borders. Critics worry this will be used to monitor, track, and silence activists and dissidents. Second, it is pushing regional extradition agreements that could make it easier for neighboring countries to send political refugees and activists back to Vietnam through the advancement of ASEAN extradition agreement. Third, Vietnam has rolled out Decision 1334 directly into the free world. This is state-sponsored directive explicitly designed to map out, infiltrate, and neutralize diaspora communities here in the United States under the guise of cultural and economic exchange. And finally, we are witnessing the blatant criminalization of dissident from diaspora community. To enforce these directives, the regime is fabricating domestic charges to intimidate critics outside Vietnam. Recently, a communist court in Vietnam sentenced one of today's panelists, U.S. citizen Dr. Nguyen Đình Thắng, to 11 years in prison in absentia, simply for his peaceful advocacy work.
We are honored to have distinguished panel of experts with us today. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Eric Patterson from the Victim of Communism Memorial Foundation. Next, we have Mr. Lê Đình Yên Phú, representing the Federation of the Vietnamese American Community of the USA. Next, we have Mr. Nguyễn Hiếu Thuận of the Vietnamese American Heritage Community of Oklahoma. And lastly, it's an honor to have Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng from PPSOS. Because our time is strictly limited, each speaker will have about 3 minutes for their opening remarks, after which we will have dedicated the remaining time to the Q&A session. Please submit your question for the panelists to the organizing committee, Dr. Bỉnh Trần. Can Dr. Bỉnh Trần raise hand? Yeah. So first, I would like now to invite Dr. Patterson to the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's an honor to be here with you to commemorate this 32nd Vietnam Human Rights Day. At the Victims of Communism Foundation, our mission is to educate all generations about the terrible ideology, history, and legacy of communism. Interestingly, just as this day was codified in law in 1994, our nonprofit foundation was created in the spring of 1994 as well, so we share that birthday. I was asked to answer the question, how does the lack of free elections at home drive the regime's need to silence political opposition abroad? And let's be clear about three things. First, despite its name of being a republic, Vietnam is not a democratic republic. Second, it is not a free market capitalist economy. And when we get to perhaps the Q&A and discussion, I think that economic leverage is actually a huge tool that the U.S. has and is not using effectively. And third, communist Vietnam is not benign. It is a violent and belligerent state at home and abroad.
So let me specifically talk about the relationship between transnational repression and elections. Elections provide a rare, significant moment to publicly test the claim that a country is taking care of its people, that it's a democracy. Most people in America would be surprised to know that there was an election in Vietnam just last week. It wasn't reported in almost any of the American press. If you do a search online for it, it's actually quite hard to find except for from official government sources. So let's just briefly look at process, context, and legitimacy. What do elections do? Well, first, elections, by their very process, raise questions about participation, citizenship, competition, elite circulation, the transition of power, and minority rights. And the government of Vietnam fails, and the election last week fails on all those counts. Second, elections are important in terms of context. Elections raise issues not only of process, but about transparency, about freedom of the press, the right to assemble, about competition, about debate among different voices, about competing visions for the country. All of these are throttled in Vietnam today. The election last week fails on context. And then third, elections are about legitimacy, and not the phony legitimacy of essentially forcing the entire public to vote towards a predetermined outcome, but rather the legitimacy of a government and its policies in a test, elections as a test of the legitimacy of the country's direction. So of course, last week's election fails on all those counts. So when a political system is repressive and corrupt at home, that pressure has to be released elsewhere. There have to be witnesses elsewhere. And that's why the government in Vietnam practices transnational repression abroad. How does it do it? We've talked a little bit about it through coercion, through intimidation, through abductions, through threats and harassment, through bullying, through the attempts to repatriate dissidents and asylum seekers back to the country. The reason that they practice transnational repression, the reason that there's been an increase in it in the past 4 years, is precisely because the voices outside of Vietnam, voices that we see in this audience and on this panel today, because outside of the country, that's the only possible witness to tell the truth about the regime today. Well, I hope that we get a chance to talk more about what can be done. But let me just remind us of 3 economic facts. The first is that 6 of the top 10 countries involved in Vietnam's economy are among our closest allies. And America itself has double the purchasing power of China when it comes to Vietnam. Double. But also close friends, Japan, South Korea, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands are all in the top 10. We have a lot of leverage economically that we're not using. Second, up to 5% every year, and it used to be up to 15% of Vietnam's economy comes from remittances. We've been propping their economy with remittances from abroad. We should have thought a long time ago about stopping or changing that practice. And then of course, this is not a free market country because it's based so much of its economic growth through online piracy, through surveillance, through counterfeiting, through the theft of intellectual property. And instead of rewarding that behavior, we should be much more aggressive in prosecuting those behaviors and not giving kind of favored status to that government. Well, in honor of this important day, thank you for allowing us at Victims of Communism Foundation to be here today. And let me simply invite all of you, since many of you are from out of town, the museum will be open all afternoon today. After this event, come and see us at McPherson Square at the Victims of Communism Museum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Patterson. Next, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Lê Đình Yên Phú.
Good morning, member of Congress, distinguished guests and friends. My name is Lê Đình Yên Phú. I'm a president of the Vietnamese community of the USA, and our community is to have over 2 million people, and we are proud in America, and we work hard, we pay the taxes, and we love this country. And many of us is blessed from Vietnam by the boat and the scales of communism, and we came here to live freedom and safety. But today, our safety is under attack right here on American soil. The Vietnamese government is which across the ocean to hunt us. It's called international repression. And presently, this Vietnamese Communist regime start a new plan called Decision 1334. This is an official government order, and this goal is to infiltrate, control the overseas Vietnamese community by the year 2030. And they do not use military to force it. They use fight in tactics. They hide behind the fact culture events. Also, international student roof in the business network. They also use the blackmail when we they see the people protest peaceful in America, and they put our family back in Vietnam. And the local police will visit our elderly parents, and they threaten our brother and sister. They take away their job, or worstly, put them in the jail. And this creates this fear in our community. Because of this fear, many Vietnamese Americans silence themselves. They too afraid to use their first American Amendment right. This is unacceptable and foreign for Asian violation American. They also silencing American citizens in our own country. And we cannot fight this alone. We need Congress to act. And we must stop this decision 1334. We need your help to protect our community and defend our freedom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Letting Fu. Next, we have Mr. Nguyen, who on the floor.
First off, thank you so much, members of Congress, and Drew Venerable. Thank you so much, Dr. Tang and Mr. Patterson. As Vietnamese Americans, my encouragement on this decision of 1334 is that we should remain aware and cautious. As Americans in the United States, we need to attempt to not encourage these actions to occur, but be stronger together. We need to hold hands, we need to actually bond as communities across America and a lot of other communities. We need to work together on these decisions. We should not let them attempt to pressure us, recruit, exploit members of our diaspora community, but we can continue to tell our stories of our boat peoples, tell our stories of war. This is the time and opportunity that we cannot let this happen, as if all of our community members continue to tell our stories of how we got here and what it means to be free, what freedom means to us. This decision and allegations of the regime really linked a lot of infiltrations and efforts. Our community members are just encouraged to protect our professional integrity. After yesterday's meeting with Secretary Turner, the encouragement is if we see something, hear something, or anything, we need to report to the FBI. That was the biggest encouragement. The more we report, the more there's dialogue, there's more information that can be synced and actually gauged for our citizens, our community, to better assist, to better have Congress interfere and engage in these conversations further to help us out. So as a leader of our community in Oklahoma, and also helping communities across America, I encourage everyone in our communities to see something, hear something, report something, and make sure it gets documented. Make sure that help us to help fight this and help Congress fight this for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, remarks from Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng.
I'd like to thank the organizers for the honor of being invited to speak here. Friends and distinguished guests, when I just came in, I heard Ms. Turner mentioning my name, and then Professor Schnack, and then many others. So I think that I'm the subject matter for this panel here on TNR, transnational repression. What does it look like? Actually, it's not a surprise to me because I knew the trajectory. And the next step, I can predict it. Vietnam will try to get a red alert from Interpol and then request the US, they should do that, right, to extradite me to Vietnam to serve the prison term. And that would become very interesting. However, let me give a very quick overview of what happened. That is, there's no rule of law at all in Vietnam. On the 28th of April, there was a trial held in Đắk Lắk province by a court there. And I was sentenced to 11 years in prison. I never received the content of accusation. I didn't know what I was accused of. I never received any evidence from witnesses, documents from the prosecutor. I didn't have the chance to confront the accuser. I didn't have the chance to depose the witnesses. I didn't have the chance to submit my response. Right? And I was not even notified of the date and time of the trial. And I was appointed, I was assigned a lawyer that I never met. I didn't know who he was to represent me, but actually he accused me of all sorts of bad things. And the US Embassy was not even notified to send someone to observe, because I'm a US citizen. So clearly, there's no rule of law. They may play the trick and they may deceive the international community, they may pass a lot of laws in Vietnam, but they didn't implement that. And my case is an example. But why did Vietnam do that? I think that they are now pushing to the corner. And thanks to USERF and Earth Office, for the past many years, we have peeled off the ship's clothing. And the regime has revealed itself, its true nature, the nature of a ferocious, voracious wolf, right? Before they were hiding behind the Red Flag Association to attack the Catholic communities in Vietnam. They hid behind the many state-controlled religious or pseudo-religious organizations to suppress independent groups. And USERF came out with a report on that in September of 2024. So now all these tools that they hide behind, the non-state actors that they created and control, have become ineffective. So they have to step out. And because there's so many reports on violations that we pass on to the USERF and Earth Office and the different UN mandate holders, they have to attack us, period. And now they're using me as a platform to attack others. I expect a wave of suppression, repression, oppression in Vietnam. Just a few hours ago, Trần Ngọc Sương and Nguyễn Ngọc Diến, two prominent Cao Đài leaders, got arrested. The charge was that because they communicated with me. a convicted terrorist, right? So we should expect that. But then, what can we do? And I truly appreciate Professor Schnack to mentioning trade and YouTube and others. We have already talked about sanctions, we continue to do that. We talk about reporting to the FBI, we continue to do that. That's other things, civil lawsuits. We have sued a few of them already. It's pending. Now, trade sanctions is very important. Everything we have done so far can be reframed as part of trade. You mentioned about remittances. For the 20 years between 2003 and 2023, the diaspora sent back to Vietnam $230 billion in remittances. And on the same par as foreign direct investment, FDI. That's our investment. Let me take one example. Labor trafficking under the state-run labor export program. How does it affect trade? Vietnam not only suppresses wages inside Vietnam because it doesn't allow any independent trade union to be formed, it also exported cheap labor to other countries because these people have been enslaved. They are not paid the right level of wages. So they're exporting cheap labor to other countries like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia. All these countries are being under investigation by the US Trade Representative right now, including Vietnam. Vietnam is a top country. Why don't we leverage on these things? Right? And we have sent money to Vietnam, like the most venerable Thich we are here, send money to Buddhist pagodas inside Vietnam. That's your investment. $20,000, so that you can serve. It's not just bring in monetary profit, but the benefit that you created for Buddhists inside Vietnam. Now the pagoda got seized by the state-created VBS, Vietnam Buddhist Sangha. That is part of trade, so on and so forth. So that's something new that we should make the most of. And I know that my time is off, so I hope that we can have a more very productive discussion during the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, as we know that his work, advocacy for religious freedom, and the work of May 11, Human Rights for Vietnam, is very effective, and it is not out here in the States, and it's effective. That's why they are treating you as so. So keep on with your energy and your work. Thank you so much. Thank you for your opening remarks. We have a question for each of you as we wait for questions from the audience. Ms. Dr. Nguyen, can you wave your hand? If you have any questions for the panelists, please meet him so that we could continue to have some questions for the next session, which is the question and answer. I have my first question to Dr. Patterson. The international election observers are expected to apply rigorous and impartial standards when evaluating elections around the world. Do you think that Vietnam has met this criteria, and how legitimate is their elections in the eyes of the international community?
So in terms of the recent elections, they were widely televised in Vietnam and broadcast by government agencies around the world. This kind of beautiful, slow-moving, peaceful election of people walking forward, the national leadership walking forward and dropping their ballots into boxes. So different than the kind of raucous type of elections that we would have in any Western country, for instance, or in a vibrant electoral system, say like South Korea or Australia or something like that. And that's because the entire process on the front end is controlled. So the answer is no, this is not legitimate when all of the candidates have to be approved by a government communist organization, when nearly every member that will be elected will be a member of a single party, and that's controlled, media is controlled on the front end, when there's no allowance for actually debates about the direction of the country on the back end. So an election observer may observe a very peaceful day with a high number of people casting their ballots, but all of the inputs into the system to that point, when they are corrupt, it means that the entire election really is a fraud.
Thank you. The next question is probably for Dr. Wen Tang. How does the lack of free and fair elections in Vietnam drive the regime's need to silence political opposition abroad through transnational repression?
Gee, that's a tough question here, because it's so all-encompassing. If you don't have the rule of law, if you don't have democracy, if you don't have any other rights, then how can there be opposition or changes inside Vietnam? The only way was to get it started from out here. So Vietnamese government knows that very well. That we out here have maintained the fight, the hope for the past 50 years plus. So they have to suppress it. They have to infiltrate us, they have to surveil us, and target us with transnational repression. It is so simple to explain, but what can we do, right, to change that and take that golden opportunity? I like the idea that Tuan just mentioned. We have to report to FBI, for instance, but you need to form a task force. So please go back home and form a task force and announce it so that everyone else, if they have a tip, contact you, and you will be the liaison with FBI.
We surprisingly, because usually when I spoke with Dr. Tang, he has passion. It can go like 4 months. We just have, but the time is limited here. So next question I would like to ask, this question also for Dr. Tang and Mr. Fu. How can a local U.S. law enforcement again better to protect Vietnamese Americans from the infiltration tactic outlined in the decision 1334? Can you be more specific? Besides, you just mentioned about reporting local FBI.
Thank you for the question. It right now is the big gap in the protection. Our community member think they go to the local the police, but the police, they do not know, always understand the situation. They think it's just personal story, and they do not see the foreign government behind it. So my suggestion is we need to get FBI local police to learn about decision 1334. And they must understand this is foreign threat. And another side, we need to set way to report the crime. And we need a hotline in the Vietnamese language. Many victims do not speak good English, so that's my suggestion. And finally, is foreign agent on U.S. must face consequences. They are breaking the law, and it must be stopped. That's what my suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, there are 3 things you can do. One is to report to the Attorney General's office, because many of them are acting as a foreign agent for the Vietnamese government. And they should have registered themselves with the Attorney General's office under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. They sidestepped that. Many of the reporters of VTV, Vietnam Television, VOV, or VNA, right, they applied for media, the press visa, but actually they are spies. on the government of Vietnam. We need to identify them and report them. Report them to FBI, that's the second thing. Thirdly, we can sue them in civil court. Right? We have sued the leader of the VTV team in the US, and he quit already, he went back to Vietnam. It's very important that we use the civil suit. Why? Because VTV, VOV, and VNA, the three state nationwide and international organ of the Vietnamese government, they just got transferred from the government to the Vietnamese Communist Party. So they are no longer protected as a government agency. So we can sue them in a civil court now. So let us think more about that. Identify them, sue them, take them to court, and their boss in Vietnam, and the agencies in Vietnam.
Thank you, both Wu and Thắng. The next question from the panel is like for Dr. Patterson. How can democratic nations better coordinate to hold the Vietnamese authorities accountable for their failures to hold free and fair elections?
Well,
I know this is a long one, but you have only 3 minutes.
So I'd say two things. I mean, one area where we've had actually very good cooperation over the past decade, led by Sam Brownback more than anyone else, has been on the international religious freedom front, and that is to set up institutions that are longer than any one administration, such as the Ministerial on International Religious Freedom that brings government heads together, the separate International Religious Freedom Summit. Dr. John's been very involved with the education side of that, and then some other initiatives as well. And so religious freedom has often been kind of the forgotten of the human rights for a variety of reasons. The past decade, we've seen actually far more reporting, very vigorous USERF, a vigorous International Religious Freedom Office in the State Department. And so one of those things is we didn't have a mechanism before about 8 years ago that was actually cooperation internationally around that specific issue. As I said earlier, the biggest point of leverage is on the economic front. And our close friends like the Netherlands, the UK, South Korea, Japan, alongside the US, we are the 6th biggest trade partners for South Korea. And so bringing together the economic types of arguments that you said, I mean, it hurts our economic interests when slave labor drives prices down, and it's morally wrong. And so the things that Dr. Tong said and others said, we actually have a tremendous amount of economic leverage if Western governments would cooperate to use it. That's our best approach, I think, in the case of Vietnam, and be pushing them towards democratic transition.
Thank you. Now we have the next question from the audience.
I have 2 questions, and I hope we can go straight to the answer as short and soon as possible. First of all, this question for Dr. Nguyễn Nhật Thắng, hopefully, because you mentioned about the suing of the Communist Party there. How much does it cost to sue them, the communist agent in U.S. court?
Well, so far it cost us like $70,000 already, but we kicked him out of the country. Right?
The price of freedom has no price, right?
But we have plenty of organizations here. If each of us put in like $1,000, we can do it.
Roger that. Thank you, sir. The last question, straight to the heart of this event. Somebody would like to know, when do we have human rights in Vietnam? Please, any of the 4 panelists would answer this.
May I go first?
Yes, please.
Well, when we can build capacity for groups inside Vietnam to defend their own human rights, instead of us out here doing it for them. Right? And you mentioned about international religious freedom, and that is special right, because that's the only right that already has a constituency. Because you have people inside Vietnam coming together to pray, right, and to worship together. That's a constituency. We have constituency out here as well, right? We have Buddhist followers of the most venerable Thich here, of the Catholic parish churches here. So we already have the human resource to organize ourselves. That's why Vietnam hates religion so much, religions brings people together, right? So let's continue to help those groups inside Vietnam organize themselves and defend them, protect them. The second thing is, only when the international community, the different governments put pressure at the same time in a concerted manner on the government so that they have to pull back and yield back the civic space for these groups inside Vietnam to do what they need to do to defend and protect and promote their own interests.
I would just say, first, amen. Second, I'm quite hopeful that by the time we get to the 40th anniversary of this, and maybe the 37th, that Cuba will have fallen, Venezuela will have changed, and that Vietnam will have changed. I have a lot of hope. I do have one challenge specifically for this audience, and that is that I'm not convinced that your children and that your grandchildren have bought into the things that we're talking about up here. And so I think a huge challenge for the diaspora community is why don't we see the Vietnamese American youth and young adults at the front of this movement instead of not participating whatsoever. And so I would just urge us all, myself, all of us, that there's a missing group on the front lines of the advocacy, in my opinion. I would love to be wrong on this. There's a missing group, and somehow we have to be doing a better job of engaging the younger Vietnamese American, the Vietnamese French, the Vietnamese Filipino, wherever they are, to be on the front lines of this fight to save their cousins. Thanks.
I was very young when I was started.
Very invigorating discussion. Before we end today, I would like to give each panelist a quick 1-minute closing statement. Let's start with Mr. Tuan.
So, according to a lot of human rights organizations, and currently Vietnam holds at 160 political prisoners. I'm a young second generation. I came here when I was 4 years old, escaped Vietnam by boat with my mom. And so you're right, Dr. Patterson, that we need to encourage younger generations of Vietnamese Americans to be influenced by what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we're doing it for the tomorrow of Vietnam and our future in Vietnam, for our kids and our kids' kids. As leaders and as young leaders, like me and Mr. Fu, and a lot of Destiny and a lot of others, I think it is our duty and our responsibility now to actually bridge the gaps between our older generation and our younger generation. We are the generation that is called to leadership right now at the forefront to help encourage our younger generation to know the importance of what human rights means. I really believe that, and I feel that every day. And as going forward, I do respectfully encourage us, just what you said, economic and diplomatic engagements, to be vigilant and look at like a lot of the protections of human rights in any kind of trade, any kind of economic development, any kind of benchmarks or any agreements, bilateral partnerships, like what Dr. Patterson said. That's one of the biggest things that I really truly believe that it's going to affect human rights in the future and what changes. I also believe, like what Dr. Kang said about it has to change with youth in Vietnam right now. And we as leaders in this United States can change that diasporas, and we can change that for Vietnam. Thank you.
Thank you for the human rights. Gets us opportunity for speaking out with your guests today. And for now, I really focus more than decision taken before, because it's taught a lot of us in overseas in the United States. Also, is on the world for the Vietnamese communities. So after this, I will focus more and talk to our communities and tie down the death rate and more focus in this. Hopefully that work out and help for the human rights in Vietnam. Also, we have a better life and everything we working for the Vietnam. They need to get better human and focus on freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Has grassroots in the 50 states in the United States, and he's a very important figure for us. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Patterson to give his 1-minute remark.
I would simply mention that last year I was in Houston. I was so proud that the people of Houston, the Vietnamese community in Houston, stopped the charm offensive by the government of Vietnam that was going to hold a major expo to tell the world about how great the communist system was. And I would simply say that in addition to transnational repression, there's also the charm offensive that's constantly going on. And I think that Vietnam learned it from Beijing. And so not only the bad stuff, but the false promises of economic development and social unity and blah, 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 which often is actually just is really, really about profits and low-cost labor and things like that. We have to fight against the charm offensives in addition to the transnational oppression. And I honor those of you who call out the lies of the charm offensives as well.
My turn, I would like to focus on actions. We have to be action-oriented. We cannot create changes without taking actions, right? So please form task forces that you think is most important to you. There's so many underutilized tools already available. So we need to learn about those tools and we need to use them. For instance, trade again. I spent the past 2 weeks attending hearings at the USTR on Vietnam, China, and 16 countries overall. And Vietnam stood out as the worst violator of the Fair Trade Act. Let me give one example. Governor Thich Nguyen Viet here. I had the honor to work with him to support Gonzo parishioners after their parish was attacked, raided by 1,000 police officers, beating some to death. Right? They fled to Thailand, and the Venerable Thich Nguyen Viet raised money and went there and visited them. Now, from the trade perspective, the government expropriated 272 acres of their land, and they compensated them at $2.5 per square meter. At the time, the market rate was $400, and today's market rate is $1,500. It translates to $1.6 billion, and these lands were invested by the Gonzo parishioners already in the US since 1975. So Vietnam just stole $1.6 billion from the US, from American citizens. Why don't we get that back? So that's one example. We need to rethink, reframe whatever we have been doing under the lens of trade and economy.
Thank you. As we conclude, the message today is clear. Transnational repression is not an abstract concept. It actively violates national sovereignty and targets our own citizens. Directives like Vietnam's Decision 1334 are tools of authoritarian control exporting to our shores. The international response must be strong, unified, and through legislation, targeted sanctions, and robust protection for diaspora communities. I want to thank Dr. Eric Patterson, Mr. Lê Đình Phu, Mr. Nguyen Hiếu Thuận, Dr. Nguyen Đình Thắng for their invaluable insights, and thank you all for being here.
Supposedly the Google Doodle won't, but it very badly, so I need to translate it into Vietnamese. Khi chúng ta kết thúc thông điệp hôm nay, rõ ràng đó là một sự đàn áp xuyên quốc gia không phải là một khái niệm trừu tượng nữa. Nó trực tiếp xâm phạm chủ quyền quốc gia và nhắm vào công dân của chúng ta. Những cái chỉ thị như là quyết định 1334 của Việt Cộng là công cụ kiểm soát mang tính độc tài, được xuất khẩu, tôi xin dùng chữ của cho người trong nước để họ hiểu, ra nước ngoài để áp dụng ngay trên đất nước chúng ta. Phản ứng của cộng đồng quốc tế cần phải mạnh mẽ và thống nhất thông qua luật pháp và các biện pháp trừng phạt có mục tiêu và sự bảo vệ vững chắc cho các cộng đồng người Việt định cư tại hải ngoại. Chúng tôi một lần nữa xin chân thành cảm ơn tiến sĩ Eric Patterson, ông Lê Đình Hiên Phú, tiến sĩ Nguyễn Đình Thắng, ông Nguyễn Hiếu Thuận và vì những chia sẻ quý báu, và xin cảm ơn các văn phòng Quốc hội, tất cả quý vị tham dự ngày hôm nay. Buổi thảo luận với chủ đề ngày hôm nay xin được tạm ngưng để chuyển tiếp cho chủ đề. Xin cảm ơn.
Thank you, Ms. Ling and Mr. Wickoff. Please welcome panel number 2 came on stage. I would like to have an honor to invite Mr. Hải Cao, the moderator, came on stage. For panel number 2, I would like to welcome, first of all, Ms. Tina Moffa, the State Department. Please give her a big hand of thank you for her presence. Then Mr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng, Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng as the religious topic representative today. Manor Thích Huyền Việt, please mời thầy. And Father Nguyễn Hữu Lê. Lễ. Dạ, con xin lỗi. Please welcome Mr. Hải.
Good morning. We still have a few. My name is Hải Cao. I'm honored with great honor to welcome all of the great guests, distinguished guests, and the most venerable one of the Việt, representing the Buddhist organization in Vietnam, outside Vietnam, that the father Lê Nguyễn Nhân Lễ, the famous prisoner of the communist Vietnam right after 1975. And he was in prison for 17 years and they tortured him, but God saved his life. And then these distinguished guests. I guess I cannot move, but this is sticking to the microphone. So I have the format is very similar to the panel 1, so which is I have a short open speech, and then each of the panelists will have a short 1 to 2 minutes open remark, and then a question and a closing remark afterward. The panelists include our panel here now, Ms. from the State Department, Ms. Tina Murphy. And the next one is
Dr. Winnie Tan is representing, and well, finally.
okay, and Mr. Bruchen Sterling represent the Tibet. So let's start with my the reason we are here with the religious freedom in Vietnam. Today, I want to speak about religious freedom in Vietnam. On paper, Vietnam Constitution guarantees freedom of belief and religion. In reality, however, religious life is tightly controlled by the Vietnamese Communist Party. From now on, I refer to them as VCP. The central problem is not that religion is completely banned. The problem is that religion is only tolerated when it is registered, supervised, and politically compliant. Groups that operate independently often face pressure, harassment, or punishment. The main legal tool for this system is the law on belief and religion, just passed in 2016 and enforced since 2018. This law gives the state broad authority to regulate religious organizations, personnel, property, and activities. It also requires religious groups to obtain official recognition if they want to function openly. That means the government can separate religious group communities into two categories: those it approves and those it treats as suspect. This creates what many observers describe as a two-tier system. Registered groups may be allowed to worship more openly, hold ceremonies, and maintain places of worship, but only as long as they stay within the state-approved structures. Unregistered groups face a much harsher reality. They may be surveyed, disrupted, pressured to join official organizations, or even prosecuted. This affects independent Protestants, house church, independent Hoa Hao, and Cao Dai communities, and unrecognized Buddhist groups. One especially serious concern is the treatment of ethnic groups, including Montaigne and Monk Kitchard. Reports describe surveillance, police intimidation, detention, beatings, and pressure to renounce their faith or join state-sanctioned churches. In addition, the government has used vague criminal laws, especially Article 116, 117, and 331 of the Penal Code against religious activists and independent clergy. These laws are framed in terms of national security or abuse of democratic freedoms, but in practice they are often used to punish peaceful religious expression and advocacy. International observers continue to raise alarm. The U.S. said conditions in Vietnam remain poor in 2024 and again recommended that Vietnam be designated a country of particular concern. In its 2024-25 annual report, in its 2026 annual report, the Commission said conditions remain poor in 2025 as well, especially for religious, minority, dissidents, and unregistered groups. Human Rights Watch has also documented Vietnam abuse use of Article 331 against peaceful activists. In conclusion, Vietnam does not provide full religious freedom in any meaningful liberal sense. Thank you. And the next is I'd like to invite the panelists to have 1 to 2 minutes open remark. With that, I would like to invite from the right to left and go like that. First off, I would like to invite Father Nguyen Lê to have a 1 minute open remark.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very far from here. I'm from at the end of the world. You know, we're about New Zealand. New Zealand has been 13 hours from here. I'm so happy to be here with you and discuss about religious freedom in Vietnam. I am experienced violation of religion by my life, not by book, not by propaganda, not by internet, but my life. I spent 13 years in jail, and I didn't want nearly 100 million people that died by communism, including myself. Yes, on the 2nd of May in 1979, I already, but God saved me. I survived. So that I am the true witness, eyewitness, not by theory, but I show you religious freedom is a big problem in Vietnam. Thank you very much. If I have time, I will share together. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Next, I would like to invite Most Venerable Thích Quyền Viễn, the leader of the Vietnamese Buddhists in overseas.
I wanted to say good morning, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and dear compatriots, welcome to this year's Vietnam Human Rights Day, and thank you for joining our panel on religious freedom, very important part of our lives. As we gather today to advocate for the fundamental human rights, we must confront a deeply troubling and sophisticated threat that is actively targeting our diaspora. It is a treasury of the Vietnamese Communist Party that I call exporting religion. Historically, communism has never accepted the freedom of religion. When their attempts to destroy it failed, the regime changed the tactics they chose to control and weaponize it. Today in Vietnam, state-sponsored religious organizations are heavily monitored and directed by the Fatherland Front. the extended arm of the party. But their reach no longer stops at the border. For nearly 20 years, the regime has aggressively pursued a treasury to export this control religion. They carefully select, train, and sponsor young monks and nuns to settle in the free countries across United States, Canada, Australia, and Europe. Look at the stark and the undeniable contrast. Many Judean Buddhist monks who escaped by boat after 1975 have struggled for decades, even up to this day, to raise the funds needed to build the modest temple for their community. Yet, we see young monks and nuns sent from Vietnam in the recent years, building massive facilities worth millions of dollars shortly after their arrival. Where does this money come from? Who is funding them so generously? This is not a coincidence. Once in the free world, these state-sponsored individuals exploit our religious freedom to expand their influence. Meanwhile, legitimate Vietnamese monks and overseas who return home, they're denied that very same freedom. They are strictly silenced, forbidden from honoring our true history, displaying the yellow flag or mentioning human rights and communist crime. This is a peaceful evolution, and it's most cunning, and it represents a direct form of transitional repression, a broader and highly dangerous tactic that our college in other panel will be discussing in greater depth today. The regime is finally attempting to turn overseas temples into centers for propaganda, intelligence gathering, and community division. Thank you.
Thank you, the most venerable one, Thích Nguyện Việt. Next, I will ask a question to Papa. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. And next, you have a 1 minute opening remark, Ms. Tina Hoffer.
Thank you so much. It's really a privilege to be here and to be joined by such distinguished fellow panelists. They've all demonstrated a long career and commitment to defend and protect and celebrate religious freedom in Vietnam and around the world. I just want to thank the organizers. This is such an important conversation to be having every year. It's a critical moment for us to reflect on progress, but also to think about how we forge a path in the long road ahead to achieve true religious freedom for all in Vietnam. As America celebrates 250 years, we reflect on the values that have shaped our nation. Our founding fathers upheld religious freedom as an unalienable right, a right that no government can take away, and every government must protect. Today, the administration is championing religious freedom for all, having shown time and time again that it will not tolerate restrictions, threats, or harassment, or detentions of religious believers. As President Trump said on Religious Freedom Day earlier this year, every person is born with the God-given right to practice their faith, follow their conscience, and worship their God freely and without fear. Protecting religious freedom abroad is a core tenet of our foreign policy and vital to the State Department's work around the globe. And this means we often have to have hard conversations with other governments to reach durable solutions for members of persecuted groups. We rely on these partners who share our values and our goals to ensure that their laws contribute to a free system that is open to the American people, whether that be through trade or other sectors. Because as we know, countries with strong human rights protections typically attract more foreign investment, which fosters innovation and promotes economic development. Credible research shows governments that effectively safeguard religious freedom are more stable and economically vibrant. This is what we hope for Vietnam's future, and we continue to encourage Vietnam to make changes in its religious freedom environment to ensure safety and prosperity for all, not just those the government approves of. And yes, while we have seen in the last 2 decades some gradual progress on religious freedom regarding registration and approvals, we really have to be honest with our partners about our lingering, long-standing human rights concerns. With Vietnam, we continue to have these hard conversations about the deeply restrictive environment for persons of faith, for those who choose a path different from the one the government dictates to them. As you know very well, in some locations throughout the country's authorities are still harassing, still surveilling, threatening, and arresting those who adhere to faith traditions outside of state-sanctioned religious organizations. This includes the independent Cao Dai and Wahhabi Buddhists, Catholics, Protestant Christians belonging to unregistered religious groups, Khmer Krom Buddhists, etc., etc., etc. These groups, as we all know, regularly face intense pressure and scrutiny from the government, purportedly in the name of national security and social unity. As we've been hearing from the first panel this morning, we know that increasingly Vietnam has demonstrated an alarming pattern of transnational repression. I'm especially grieved for my good friend here to my right, convicted and sentenced, Sentia. This is a U.S. citizen. He is being harassed and threatened on U.S. soil. This is unacceptable. We should all be outraged. It is unacceptable. There are so many others who are currently serving time for their commitment to their faith and to their religious freedom advocacy. We call for their immediate and unconditional release. Peacefully expressing one's faith should not be a crime. Peacefully participating in civic and political life as a manifestation of one's beliefs should not be a crime. The free exchange of ideas strengthens societies. The call of one's conscience to peacefully advocate strengthens societies. So when Vietnamese authorities use repressive laws and policies and practices to target religious expression and silence disfavored voices, it denies individuals the exercise of unalienable rights. When they arrest religious individuals and advocates and charge them with spurious, seemingly unrelated crimes, they infringe on fundamental freedoms belonging to everyone. The United States has a host of diplomatic tools that we are using to urge Vietnam to improve its religious freedom and to hold perpetrators accountable. These tools have shown effectiveness. When the State Department first placed Vietnam on the special watch list in 2022 for for engaging in and tolerating severe violations of religious freedom, we caught the government's attention. The special watch list designation has amplified our messaging, and it is in that context that we routinely call on the government of Vietnam to cease interfering in religious affairs, eliminate harassment by local authorities, and stop threatening and abusing those who worship outside of state-defined parameters. At the State Department, we are also leveraging sanctions and visa restrictions to target bad actors who routinely oppress individuals for practicing their faith. And we won't hesitate to continue to leverage these tools against Vietnamese officials. In response to the special watch list designation and our pressure, Vietnam has been listening and engaging with us. We have a long road ahead. We are committed to raising these concerns in our bilateral conversations and to publicly reporting on religious freedom issues in the International Religious Freedom Report. And we will continue to fight for religious freedom in Vietnam. Thank you for all you do as the noble fight for freedom continues. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And as we said, next person is Dr. I want to introduce Dr. Nguyen Tang for his opening remarks.
Well, I will pass because I already spoke on the first panel, so I yield the floor to my good friend here from Tibet.
Thank you, Dr. Tang, and Dr. Bu Chong Seri from Tibet.
Thank you very much. I wanted to make 3 points. First, I'm from the International Campaign for Tibet, and I'm here to express our solidarity with the people of Vietnam in the quest for religious freedom and human rights. His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said that human rights and religious freedom are universal. There's nothing like a different human rights in Vietnam and a different human rights in the United States. Everybody is same, everybody has rights, have to respect it. What happens in Vietnam also impacts the Tibetan people, and that's something that we need to let others know so that everybody can help support the cause. Secondly, in terms of what happens in Tibet also has impact on Vietnam. For example, I see that there are more than 1 million Vietnamese have died under communism. We say that more than 1.2 million Tibetans have died under Chinese communism. This January, or rather this March, Chinese government passed a new law, Ethnic Unity and Progress Law, in which Article 63 is clearly aimed at transnational repression. So China is not only denying religious freedom in Tibet, they deny religious freedom for people outside of China. In Vietnam, March 2025, an important Tibetan Lama, I have a photograph of him, some of you may know him, Hunkot Dorji. He was detained by the Vietnamese government under pressure from the Chinese government, and he ultimately died in Vietnam. So he was denied his religious freedom even while in Vietnam. And that's important for the people of Vietnam and the Vietnamese people to know that we share the same suffering in terms of communist dictator government there. Thirdly, today as we speak, President Trump is leaving for China. So the word is that trade will be his focus there. But we hope that President Trump will also pay attention to religious freedom, not only for the Chinese people, not only for the Tibetan people, but also for people of Vietnam, so that when China colludes with the Vietnamese government in denying religious freedom for the Vietnamese people, the American government should also act. And I'm glad that Tina has committed the United States government's support for the Vietnamese people's religious freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have much time. We're only like 10 minutes before we have to close out this room. So I would like to invite from the audience, if any of you have a question for these prestigious leaders, to go ahead and submit a question. Or raise your hand instead. And if not, I have a question. In April 2026, this is looking at Miss Tina more. In April 2026, there there was a revision of the law of belief and religion, explicitly target online faith communities, requiring state registration for virtual gatherings. Mike, in what way do the 2026 revision of the LDR expand state surveillance to eradicate the last digital safe haven for independent and unregistered churches? Thank you, Ms. Nina. Oh, by the way, later on you can just chime in. The father and the most reverend wanted to begin. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. We too saw with alarm the developments to the revisions to the law on belief and religion. And in many respects, my first instinct upon learning of it was to think of China and the severe crackdowns on online religious activities that are happening in China. And so my first thought was Vietnam is replicating its communist cousin, right? They're replicating this new repressive tactic to go after people online. The registration issue in Vietnam in general is very, very concerning. Various religious freedom envoys affiliated with the UN over the years have commented thoroughly on this issue, how inconsistent mandatory registration requirements are with international human rights standards. This is very well documented. No government can legitimize a religious group through registration. Right? There's no administrative or bureaucratic measure that can create a religious group. A religious group exists because the people belonging to it want it to. There's no government that can sanction that can bless it, the religious pun intended, right? There's no administrative measure that makes that happen, right? It's the people involved themselves who make that happen. So now to see that this level of oversight and repression is extended to religious activities online is very, very concerning. Something that we are remaining in close contact with our counterparts at the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. Consulate in Vietnam. If you are hearing of specific cases, instances of people being tracked down and their online activity either surveilled or repressed in some way, I hope you will reach out and let us know, because we definitely want to document that and address it as appropriate.
Yeah, I would like to add to what the Venerable Thi Quyen Viet mentioned about the two-tier system. Those who are registered and approved by the government got preferential treatment. However, the policy is much more insidious than that. Many of those state-approved churches and religious organizations actually serve as instruments for religious control and repression for the government, such as the VBS, Vietnam Buddhist Han Ha, for instance. Instead of the police attacking Venerable Thi Quyen Tuệ or the Mount Thi Quyen Tuệ or the Zen Hermitage on the edge of the universe, they let the VBS monks do the dirty work. So that is very concerning. So these are not truly religious organizations. We have no hatred for them. We just want them to come back and operate as a true religious organization and not an instrument for the government. Secondly, the bad regimes learn from each other, but also they collaborate. My good friend here from Tibet mentioned about the Tunku Hungkar Dorje Rinpoche. He escaped China. He came to Vietnam. He got arrested by Vietnamese police, taken to the hotel. 3 days later, he died. And the police of Vietnam came along with Chinese police officers, right, to pick up his remains. His family was not allowed to visit him, to see him, and they cremated him to get rid of the evidence. So clearly Vietnam was not only committing TNR outside Vietnam, targeting their own citizens, their Vietnamese in the diaspora, Vietnamese diaspora, but they're collaborating with China to conduct TNR against Tibetans who escaped persecution from China. So those are the 2 points that I'd like to point out. That first of all, the policy of Vietnam is very much insidious. They want to control all religious activities using these state control and sanction organizations that they pop up. Secondly, they collaborate with other bad regimes to conduct and commit TNR.
Thank you, Dr. Tan.
No, just except that in the case of this two Konga Dorji, the Vietnamese Buddhist, so the official one was used to issue statement supporting the government.
That's right. But again, we need to collaborate. Task force actions, right?
Yes.
Currently in Thailand, just a few days ago, I just sent a notice. A Falun Gong member, her passport got revoked by the Beijing government, and she got arrested by Thai police, and she's now in IDC, Immigration Detention Center. Our lawyer there has visited her to make sure that she's not going to be deported, just like Iquim Buddha. And talking about Iquim Buddha, you know what? His entire family, his father was the leader of an independent house church, Montagne Christian house church. The police told them in order to allow them to visit him in prison, his entire family had to leave that independent church, house church, and join a government-sanctioned church, and they had to do that.
We're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would like to say more idea about comments of my friends. First of all, I think much clear the definition. Religious freedom is the rights of the people, not a favor from the government. Religious freedom is not a favor. So that they destroy, like Dr. Tan said, that they use religions like instruments for the government. I have experience, but now time is coming now, so that I stop here. So that religious freedom is the right of people, not the favor from the government. Any government destroy the government, this religion is the enemy of the people.
Thank you, Dr. Now we will have a 1-minute closing remarks from each of our panelists. Can we have you, Father, to begin?
1 minute?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to come here. When years ago I've been here for a couple of times, always I feel very interesting. Today I come and thank you very much, and I come to New Zealand from New Zealand to here. This year for another reason. The reason is this year, the 50 years after the communists take the name of Saigon. I am the man to raise the issue Saigon for Saigon. Phong trào quốc dân đòi ra Sài Gòn. I have invited you come to celebration 50 years anniversary of the name of Saigon in California on the 5th of July. You most welcome. This year the landmark of the people to show ourselves that we do not accept the term publicity, but Saigon for Saigon. This is the flyer. Thank you very much. If you like.
Chào Đức Phó Tổng thống.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. I'm an old monk. Many of us in the independent religious movement are getting older, but our faith remains very strong. We do not ask America for money. We only ask your voice. Please do not forget the 2 monks, nuns, priests, and followers in Vietnam. When our U.S. government shakes hands with the Vietnamese communist leaders, please remember the people suffering in the dark behind them. true friendship between our countries can only happen when there is true freedom. May Buddha bless you all with peace and health. Thank you very much.
Chair Moffat, you have the floor.
Thank you. You asked us to remember, I will remember. I will remember.
Please.
For so many of you in this room, this issue is personal. Thank you for your courage to share your stories, your own and those of those who can't be here with us today. We need your work. It's so valuable. Keep documenting, keep advocating, keep reporting. It's really been a true honor to be here with you today. Some of you I've known for a very, very long time, and it always feels like coming home when I get to spend time with you. So thank you so, so much. Thank you for all that you do.
There are so many actions that we can take, and yet we have not taken them. And I therefore call on everyone here to join task forces. I will volunteer to sign you up. We are right now preparing a petition to the USTR, the Trade Representative, to investigate Vietnam under the Section 301 of the Trade Act. And we hope that we will submit that petition by next month. And hopefully USTR will decide to, the Section 301 committee of USTR will decide to investigate Vietnam on multiple fronts. Currently, Vietnam is being investigated as part of 16 countries on just 2 issues: structural excess capacity and forced labor. But there's so many aspects: expropriation of properties of American citizens, of religious organizations, so on and so forth, repression of freedom of the press, of the media. So please do contact me, and we need to mobilize the entire Vietnamese American community to get members of Congress to talk to and write to the USTR office next month. Thank you.
I think we're talking about religious freedom, particularly in the context of a communist government. So whether it's China or Vietnam, whether it's the Tibetan people or Vietnamese people, an atheist communist government has no right to interfere in the religious freedom of the people.
Today, we remember the sacrifice of many, many brave individuals. For May 11th, we like to distinguish Dr. Nguyễn Dan Quế and Dr. Quan, and to honor the legacy of those who have risked everything to stand up for those basic human rights in Vietnam. On behalf of the organizing committee, we want to thank our speakers, sponsors, partner organizations, and all of you who have contributed to making today so meaningful. Your dedication to the heartfelt of this movement, and may we leave here with not only be inspired but empowered to keep moving forward until the day when Vietnam becomes truly a nation of liberty, human dignity, and lasting peace. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Destiny Nguyen.
For the closing remark in Vietnamese.
Right now, I think we have a lot of Vietnamese still here, so I'm going to say something in Vietnamese. Kính thưa quý vị, thay mặt ban tổ chức, chúng tôi xin chân thành cảm ơn quý vị. Có quý vị từ rất xa, như cha lễ đây là từ New Zealand, Hòa trưởng Thích Thiện Việt thì từ Houston, Texas, và nhiều chủ tịch cộng đồng across the US đã về đây để tham dự lần thứ 32 Ngày Nhân Quyền cho Việt Nam. Chúng tôi mong rằng lần thứ chúng ta không như ông Eric Patterson của Victim Commerce nói là tới lần thứ 34, 37, 40 gì đó thì mình không phải làm nữa vì Việt Nam đã có nhân quyền rồi. Nhưng mà ngày nào Việt Nam vẫn còn đàn áp xuyên quốc gia giống như Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng đây vị thì chúng ta vẫn còn lên tiếng. Và chúng ta strongly có Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng như là nhân chứng lịch sử mà đã bị như vậy thì chúng ta cũng không có ngại gì mà đứng chung để nãy Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng nói là có ai đó nói chuyện với Dr. Nguyễn Đình Thắng bị bỏ tù ở Việt Nam nữa, thì nhưng mà ở đây chúng ta sống ở một đất nước có luật pháp, chúng ta được bảo vệ bởi chính phủ ở đây, thì chúng ta cũng không có ngại gì nói lên tiếng nói của chúng ta cho những người thấp cổ bé họng ở Việt Nam. Và một lần nữa chúng tôi chân thành cảm ơn quý vị đã có mặt ngày hôm nay, và cũng mong rằng năm tới đây thì chúng ta sẽ đông hơn nữa và khuyến khích cho con cháu của chúng ta đến đây để hiểu được cái vấn đề nhân quyền của người Việt Nam chúng ta. Dạ, xin cảm ơn.
Xin cảm ơn tất cả quý vị ở đây ở đây. I just want to offer you guys that if you want to have a picture with Dr. Nguyễn Thắng to challenge Vietnam VCP to go ahead and have a picture with him to see if they arrested you.
Và lần đầu tiên là chúng tôi thấy có nhiều truyền thông của Việt Nam, chúng tôi cũng xin chân thành cảm ơn đài Carolina TV, Việt TV, VA TV và đài Hoa Trận Đấu đã đến đây để report chương trình của chúng ta hôm nay. Xin chân thành cảm ơn quý vị.
Hả?
Có lên chụp hình.